Marco Rubio has been a politician since he was 26 years old. He's not from the outside. He's been a career politician. His whole life has been around ambitions. And he's gifted. He can turn a phrase really well. But what has he done? What has he done? Senator Rubio suggested that he led the charge to increase sanctions for Hezbollah, and it passed without him even being there.
What do you make of this?
Well, first off, it was a great question to ask, and I think like Rick Santorum...
It was very simple. By the way, can I just say, it's a simple question to ask. You ask me what Rick Santorum did, I can talk for 30 minutes in the Senate.
Absolutely.
You ask me what Ted Cruz did, I can talk for 30 minutes. I disagreed with most of it, but he stuck his neck out. From day one, he was a fighter who stuck his neck out for what he believed in. Nobody can name a single thing Marco Rubio has done but run for president.
The office of President of the United States used to be something that people who ran for it, George Herbert Walker Bush, people of enormous accomplishment, Ronald Reagan, two-term former governor of California, had spent a lifetime traveling the country. You saw Rick Santorum in the answer define the Obama era of the presidency, said his qualification was he had great potential. And that's now the standard with which a lot of voters are looking at presidential candidates, not by their competence, not by their ability to command, not by their capacity to be the most powerful person in the world, but whether they have great potential.
And the problem, it seems to me, John Howman, is the answer to that question is the Gang of Eight immigration bill. I mean, that's what he's done. He worked with Chuck Schumer and others, and that's what's been something that's been hung around his neck for the entirety of this campaign.
Well, that's an accomplishment, right?
It was at the time, but now he's paying for it.
It's a very unpopular thing among a lot of Republican voters in the nominating electorate, and everybody points out that there's a similarity between Rubio's dilemma on that and Mitt Romney and Romneycare back in 2012. There was a lot of discussion at our table here on this show about whether Romney should have proudly owned that accomplishment or put himself in the awkward position of kind of trying to run away from one of the major things that he accomplished as governor of Massachusetts. Rubio is it's a hard dilemma for him, right? It is a position that puts him at odds with a lot of voters he wants to try to court, so he's tied up in knots over it.
They were in spin control yesterday. The reporter asked him what accomplishments. We didn't get an answer there. What accomplishment can you name? So after the campaign had all day to figure out what his big accomplishment was, what was his big accomplishment? What did he come up with in the list?
I can't cite the list right now, Joe. I looked at it yesterday, but it's already escaped my mind. That's how thin the gruel was in the list. I mean, I don't mean to be mean to Marco Rubio, but they put out a list somewhere we could look at it on Google, I think, where there were about three things that he cited. There were about three things he cited, none of which were things that rose to the level where anybody could they're things that were genuinely impressive. And I think there are things you can point to, and they do point to this one amendment on that has to do with Obamacare. Again, it's not a really compelling list. The Gang of Eight thing is the biggest thing he did in his time in the Senate. And again, as I say, for all the obvious reasons, it's not something he wants to wear as a badge of honor.
Okay, I think your copy's here.
Well, look, you think back to the '52 election, Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
He won World War II.
Well, that's an accomplishment.
I mean, the fact of the matter is there are no accomplishments. I mean, he's been a professional politician since he was in his mid-20s. His accomplishments are getting elected to the United States Senate against an incumbent governor in the state of Florida. He got to the Senate. He's a very smooth politician. And he began planning his run for the presidency right away. He's done very well in that. And he's poised now to come in first, come in second, potentially in the New Hampshire primary.
Sounds like
Those are his accomplishments.
Sounds like JFK.
Yeah, John Kennedy in the House.
War hero.
He was in the House of. Hold on a second. John Kennedy was in the House of Representatives for what? For 2 terms, 3 terms?
I think John Kennedy got elected in 1948 to the House.
Yeah, he was in the United States Senate. So he was in Congress for 12 years. He was a war hero. He won the Pulitzer Prize. The list goes on and on and on. Let's not have a Dan Quayle moment here. Willie.
I think everything.
Lloyd Benson, Dan Quayle.
Everything that's been said in the last couple of minutes is true. I will just repeat what I said yesterday. If you talk to Rubio supporters, they don't mind the Obama comparison, not on policy, but on the fact that he's young, he's hopeful, he's the future, he changes some of the demographic game for
Obama.
Republicans, and he's exciting.
Great potential.
It's great potential. So let's, Alex, for the record, let's put it down the record. John can't remember, and none of us can remember exactly what he's done. Do you have a list of what he's done?
It.
Did you Google it?
Well, this is what the Rubio campaign sent us after our interview with Santorum yesterday.
All right, here we go.
Legislation he's passed and signed into law in recent years: VA accountability reform, Obamacare bailout, Girls Count Act, Venezuela sanctions, and Hezbollah sanctions.
Okay, well, the Hezbollah sanctions, actually, that's not exactly correct. And it's been reported widely that he overstated his fighting in the Obamacare amendment. But I guess